Thank you, dear viewers, for staying with us here on Nile Cruise. Well, Cairo has recently been named the second most trending destination in the world and ninth best destination for city lovers in 2022, according to the world's largest travel guidance platform, TripAdvisor, while Hurghada was also named 10th most popular destination. TripAdvisor's methodology for the Traveler's Choice Best of the Best Awards focuses on the quality and quantity of reviews and ratings from travelers on their platform over the 12-month period between the 1st of November 2020 and the 21st of October 2021. We are honored now to have with us here on Nile Cruise Dr. Atef, who is a travel expert and who has a PhD in sustainable heritage tourism and museum studies. Thank you very much, Dr. Atef, for joining us. A great pleasure to have you with us.
My pleasure, yeah.
So first of all, I mean, a comment on those results for Cairo and Hurghada.
Well, Cairo is one of the most important cities. If we're going to talk about tourism in particular, I mean, there are lots of sites in Cairo, and Cairo was named as the city of the 1,000 minarets, as you know, and it's a melting point for different civilizations, and I would say it's a cosmopolitan city to a big extent.
It was chosen the capital of Islamic culture, right?
And it was chosen as the capital of Islamic culture recently. So we have lots of Islamic sites. We have Al Mu'izz Street, if we can mention Al Mu'izz Street, with all the Fatimid architecture and the Abbasid and the Mamluk architecture and all those Islamic sites. It's one of the highlights of the Islamic tours of Egypt. And also, if we're going to talk about the Islamic Museum that has a collection that does not exist in anywhere else in the world, you know. So for sure, Cairo is an add-on to Islamic tours, and there are lots of people who come specially for Islamic traveling, and they just stay like 2 or 3 days in Cairo to visit those sites.
Yeah, that's one point where surely other new attractions might have been the Nemek, I guess, the National Museum of Egyptian Civilization and
yeah,
other.
Of course. I mean, if we're going to mention other, I would say, attractions in Cairo, we need days and days to talk about it. The Nemek, the National Museum of Egyptian Civilization, is considered to be one of the highlights now for the travelers. It's amazing because it's like 50,000 pieces that are in the museum, and it's like a semicircle, and the way it's displayed is amazing, from the pre-dynastic to the ancient Egyptians to the Greco-Roman, the modern Egypt, and then you go down to see the mummies that has been moved, the 22 mummies that had been moved from the Egyptian Museum of Antiquity.
April 2021.
April 2021 in a big parade, and people come here all the time and ask about the mummies and the Nemek. And the good thing is the tour operators, even I mean outside Egypt, also included the Nemek as an including item in the itineraries, which is very good. So people would visit the old museum that will still exist, by the way, because people come and ask us about the old Egyptian museum all the time.
The iconic one in Tahrir Square, right?
Yes, absolutely, the iconic one, because it has been listed as one of the heritage sites in Egypt. And I mean the building itself, right. And the museum in Tahrir is going to be a sculpture museum, so it's going to have statues that will still exist, because travelers, when they come here, they ask, are you going to close this museum? No, we're not going to close the museum. It's going to still exist, but they moved the kings and queens pieces to the gem, the Grand Egyptian Museum, so the gem will be a kingship museum. The museum in Tahrir will be a sculpture museum, so in other words for statues and so on, but it will still be there. Now they are painting it and they are doing lots of restorations in the Egyptian Museum in Tahrir, and after all the restoration and all the job that has been done in Tahrir Square, I think the whole thing will be a great visit. When you go to Tahrir Square during the day or during the night, and you see the obelisk in the Tahrir Square with the rams, I mean, that they got from Luxor, isn't that amazing? I mean, I would say it raises the awareness of the community, because the Tahrir Square is considered to be one of the main attractions, as it's one of the most famous squares now in Egypt. You know, people come and ask about Tahrir Square, and now there is an obelisk and the Rams, and the way they lit it at night. So it became a very high tourist attraction, and people are amazed. I see them all the time taking pictures. And actually, in the past, we used to just to drive by the Tahrir Square. Now we do a tour of the Tahrir Square. So we go in a circle or two to visit the square, and people just keep taking pictures. And I think it's going to be a good added value.
Yes, you mentioned to us now, Dr. Atef, while you were speaking, why was Egypt ranked as a must-see country in 2022? I mean, I noticed that you mentioned the Royal Mummies Parade, April 2021. You mentioned the Road of the Rams, October 2021.
Yes.
Another great event attended by His Excellency the President.
Yes.
You mentioned GEM. I guess the world is waiting for the official inauguration of the Grand Egyptian Museum.
Hopefully it's going to be open in November.
Uh-huh.
I mean, the last dates that have been listed was next November. They will open the GEM. And people, by the way, come and ask about the GEM all the time. I mean, they come and they say, is it open? We're here to see the GEM. And so it's going to be another added value for the tours. The plan in the future will be that the travelers would stay longer time in Cairo. It's not going to be this cookie cut tours that just visiting 2 days in Cairo and just doing a cruise and this and that. No, they will stay longer because there are lots of attractions to be seen. So people would stay longer time. Most of the tour operators now are putting like 2 or 3 nights in Cairo. Travelers will get a chance to see more, and then they would go on the cruise. Also, the people are asking about, we need like 3 days or 4 days minimum to see the sights of Cairo. So, and old Cairo, when we talk about the churches and the synagogue and the Hanging Church and the St. Sergius Church, also the route of the Holy Family, we're talking about 15,000 kilometers back and forth. I mean, this is another attraction of Cairo.
I wonder if the Baron in Palace is getting after, of course, the renovation lately and the restoration, is it getting enough of the attention that it really deserves? Because that's such a great place to visit.
I don't think for the time being it's getting that much of attraction, but it's still attracted by the locals, by the Egyptians. I mean, all the fellow Egyptians, they go visit the Baron Impen. I mean, lots of field trips I see in and out, and lots of university trips. They still need to put it more on the itineraries, but again, the obstacle would be the time of the traveling. So I think with those new itineraries that will be listed in the coming 2022 season in 2023, there will be more chances to visit the Baron Impen Palace.
Well, I guess, Dr. Atef, that the fact that Hurghada was there on the list as the 10th most popular destination in 2022 indicates that there was a thirst for this type of leisure tourism as soon as the COVID-19, pandemic was, starting to fade away, I guess.
Absolutely. I mean, Hurghada, Sharm el-Sheikh, you have lots of resorts. I mean, in Egypt, and we have the sun, and people would come here and stay. I mean, Europeans, you have the sun and the great weather when Europe is cold and snowing, for instance. So British, Germans, especially Germans, by the way, they come to Hurghada all the time and visit to enjoy the sun. So we have this blessed weather in the summer and the winter, and people like to come and stay in the summer in the resorts. Plus, there are lots of options there. I mean, they can do beach, tours like activities, snorkeling and scuba diving, and those banana boats, and the trips of the fishing trips. So there are lots of varieties in Hurghada, and there are lots of expats who live there, by the way. And this also is an attraction for other people to come and visit Hurghada. So that's one of the very interesting resorts. So people are thirsty to come and visit Egypt, and thanks God that the coming season will be booming. All the bookings and all the, we can see lots of bookings are coming to visit different places of the country.
Great. Now we are familiar with you know, the German tourists, the Italian tourists, the Russian tourists, the American tourists, the British tourists, the Arab tourists, and I don't want to be forgetting anyone of the main, you know, our main visitors. They're most welcome here, of course, in their second home. My question is, are we opening new markets? Are we hitting some ground in the Far East and Latin America and elsewhere?
Yes, for sure. I mean, our offices, I mean, the Egyptian offices, the Egyptian bureaus of Egyptian tourist bureaus in the Far East and in Latin America are very active. And as we're speaking, there are lots of Spanish travelers and lots of Mexican travelers and lots of travelers from Latin America down there in the road. You see, and they travel in big groups. So you see them in Saqqara, you see them in Luxor, because this is the season, because it's their holiday. So that's a big market that has been already there, but it's getting more booming, especially with the situation that's happening now. I mean, when people are traveling more after COVID has ended, as you know. But not only this market that will be open, but the other market that's very important will be what we would call spiritual tourism. Again, I'm going to mention again the route of the Hali family, and again 1,500 kilometers back and forth, and we're talking about 25 stops. 25 stops where they have a chapel or a church or a tree or a cave, and by every one of those sites it will be a tourist attraction. This trip of the Hali, imagine when you tell people that they're going to travel and take the footsteps of Joseph, Jesus, and Mary when they came here to Egypt. You know, Egypt is the first country that Christ had ate its food and drank its water after his homeland in Jerusalem. So, and it's the first escaping trip in history. You know, lots of hiding and lots of moving, because he was running away from the Romans, as we all know. So it's an interesting trip. And I would not call it a Christian trip. I would call it more a spiritual trip, because people want to. So this is a new market, and Egypt has been getting the blessings of the Vatican recently. And there was a group from the UNESCO that came and they checked the route, and it's going to be open in the coming season. So that's one of the big markets.
Great. Now every year, Dr. Atef, we have new archaeological discoveries that rewrite history. Could you tell us some of these latest discoveries, and in your view, how can we best invest such discoveries?
I mean, they have been doing excavations for the last couple of years, and travelers want to come and see new things. Egypt is not the travelers' mother's Egypt or grandmother's Egypt. This is not Egypt that their mothers and their grandmothers visited. This is new Egypt now, and travelers need to know that. And you know, I would say it's an Instagramic tours. They like those pictures, and they like to do something different. I mean, Luxor and Aswan and the cruise, of course, is amazing. But again, the cookie cut tours is not what attracts the travelers. They want to see something new. So when you talk about a new tomb that's opened, when you talk about the golden mummies, when you talk about tombs in Saqqara, when you talk about the oasis, and when you talk about Fayoum, and they have the whale, Valley of the Whales, and when they know that there are a whale that's the oldest on Earth, 40 million years old. I mean, how attractive is that? Travelers, when they know that, they want to come and see this whale. I mean, in Fayoum, and they want to see. And it's a protectorate area, by the way. They have this beautiful museum. There are lots of things. So we need to work more on that. The Egypt in depth and new Egypt that the travelers would see. Travelers, if they know that, they would come and they would see it. But back to the new excavations, there are new types of tourism. I mean, when they go down in the shafts and they go by themselves, like Indiana Jones, and they take the pictures and they say, we're here in the tombs that has been recently opened. And I just, it's a good chance that you ask me this question, because I'm sure all my friends and colleagues are listening. There is a good attraction to see those tombs and announce to the travelers that those are new tombs and they are the first one to see it. This is very appealing, and they like to do things that nobody has done before. We're talking about different markets, and I think those new discoveries will be a good attraction, and we'll see the come out of it hopefully in the coming season.
Yes, I really liked the way you put it when you said that the tourists must realize that the Egypt they are visiting is not the same Egypt that their grandfathers or grandmothers visited.
It's not their mothers.
I really like the way you
it's
you
not
put
their
it
mother's
there.
Egypt, and not this is new Egypt, and we just need to let them know.
Yes, and since you mentioned, you know, the shaft and Indiana
Yes.
Jones, I mean, we have new technology, we have new places, we have new discoveries, we have renovated and restored a lot of monuments. We're opening now museums on the side of beach destinations. I mean, a lot is really being done.
They call it private museums. I mean, built it's built by private public museums. It's built by private investors, and the government provides them with the artifacts and with the curators and everything. So. In the past, people would just go for the beaches and just see. I mean, for the water activities. Now they have museums to see it. And I'll tell you quickly. A couple of days ago, I was in Fayoum with a travel agent, and she came to Egypt just to prepare for the coming season. As we were coming back from Fayoum, they went on the internet, on the phone, and they said there is a museum here called Oshim Museum. So we just stopped on the way. I mean, it was not in the itinerary, but we just pulled off Oshim Museum on the way from Cairo to Fayoum, and it's a beautiful, it's a local museum, and we just stopped by the museum. We walked in. They saw the site, and they saw the museum and all the archaeological site. We went back on the car. It was a good break on the way, instead of just driving directly. So that's a good thing, that's a good attraction. And I mean, now everybody who goes to Fayoum, they can do this museum, for instance, back to the resorts, and people would go to the beaches and see the museum, and this will be an attraction for them to come and see the archaeological sites. Because the travelers who go to the beaches were always known for a reputation that they just came for the beach. They don't come for the culture tourism.
And the two examples you gave us here, Dr. Atef, really endorse the theory that you said earlier, that we don't want the cut cookies visits anymore. We want to extend the tours and the visits and the duration of those visits. Dr. Atef, the Minister of Tourism and Antiquities has and is always stressing the importance of working with children and students across the country to raise their awareness about, you know, their heritage and about the importance of tourism to all of us here in Egypt. So, and your PhD was in sustainable heritage. So, in your view, what is the best way to encourage children and youth to know more about their heritage, and how important is that indeed to the key vital tourism industry?
It's very important, the field trips, and the government is already doing that. Raising awareness of the children is very important, and it would start from the schools at a young age. We can provide them with a subject that would be taught, let's say tourism, or let's say heritage, or let's say we can say protecting our heritage. I mean, and then they can know more about Egypt and about their history. I see the field trips all the time. I mean, children coming from the schools and the universities, visiting the pyramids on Friday and on the holidays, but we just need more raising of the awareness of those kids. You know, they're out there in the desert, and they're out there by the pyramids, and they want to take pictures of the tourists, and it's interesting and it's very good. But they also like to take the picture to show to their families. Raising awareness is important, and we can give them lectures. We can do it by school, I mean through the schools and the universities, and we can do it also during the tours. I would say the teachers have a big role. I mean, if they're coming from the outside Cairo, or from Cairo during the bus, for instance, or we can engage the guides to go and to give them information and give them tours and raise the awareness.
And this can definitely be done in a fun way, right? In an
Yes.
entertaining way.
In entertaining, I mean, play a movie or play games or tell them interesting stories to make the thing attractive. The children at the universities doesn't like. I mean, we never liked. I mean, being giving orders. You know, so they like to get the information in a nice, fun way, so that they would, accept it. So I think that's a very important thing. And Egypt has been accommodating travelers. I mean, for since decades and decades. So Egyptians are warm people and warm welcoming and hospitality that they see here. The travelers always comment about the hospitality they see by the Egyptians that they don't see anywhere else in the world. And if we're going to talk back to Cairo, talk about Cairo, it's a city that does not sleep. So they don't see that anywhere else in the world. You know,
it doesn't stop breathing. It never stops. It doesn't even ink, I guess.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So, wink. I mean.
That doesn't wink. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yes.
So, dear viewers, it doesn't have time to wink that. Cairo. On behalf of you, we thank very much Dr. Amr Atef, the professor of sustainable heritage and museum studies. Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to have you. It's always fun to listen.
Thank you, sir.
To you. Thank
it's
you.
always great to join, and thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Dr.
sir.
Atef.
Thank you.
Dear viewers, please stay with us. Nile Cruise will be back shortly.